You're listening to ChainLeak, the crypto news podcast with your host, Joshuwa Roomsberg. Follow and subscribe today.
Welcome to the ChainLeak podcast. I'm your host, Joshuwa Roomsberg. Today's episode is about XYO Network. Data Verification DePIN. Today's guest, Markus Levin. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
All right, so XYO Network is a DePIN infrastructure. Let's go into what makes it unique and what you guys are bringing to the industry.
Yeah. So DePIN, as you know, is a decentralized physical infrastructure network, right? The coin was termed in 2022 by Messari, right? And it means that you take infrastructure and decentralize it in a way. And funny is the term came around in 22, but we launched our DePIN actually in 2018. And we are the first and the original DePIN. So we started with location data, and now we do other data and so on. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I remember back in 2018, I had the original Sentinels, and I should have had it for the show today just to show it off. But looking back at the evolution of the network, where do you see the biggest progression moving forward?
Biggest progression? Yeah, we just announced our layer one, the XYO layer one. We're around for 7 years, not many crypto projects are. And we built this middleware over the last 7 years, with our in-house technologies like proof of location and proof of origin. I can go into them in a little bit, but we took all of those technologies and other things and built a very data-centric layer one. Which we got the testnet is live, and we're going to launch it over the next few months. And it's featured, and it's going to be very data centric, and it's everything what data projects basically miss in like DePIN, RWA, AI, and other data heavy sources. And so we are super excited about that, and that's going to dictate what we're doing basically over the next year or so.
So you guys are moving away from the road data and traffic data and those kinds of things are going to the side now?
No. We still have them, but right now, what we're doing is like we collect the data and then we write that data into an IPFS database, for example, or we have a hash on like Solana, Ethereum, and other chains, and there's no layer of truth. It's several layers of truth. And so what we're doing with a layer one is have one layer of truth. And then from there, we ride onto Solana and others.
Branches off into the other networks?
That's right.
Okay. Now, what types of data are you guys looking to collect in the future? Whether right now or in the future?
Yeah, as you're around since 2018 with us, that's amazing, actually. Thank you for being there for 7 years. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
We started with proof of location data, right? So we realized location is easily spoofed or hacked, right? You can download GPS spoofing apps and pretend that you are somewhere where you are actually not. And that's a problem for a lot of things which have value attached to location, like smart cities, self-driving cars, but also the apps on your phone and so on. And so we started there. And then we realized we're good at collecting, validating, and verifying other location and other data as well. And so today we do other IoT data or point of interest data, offline data, and so on. And we are able to validate it through our proof of location technology, as well as something we call proof of origin, which basically allows us to tangle a data point when it's generated and tell you where it's stored and then where it ends up. With a very high degree of certainty. And so right now we are pretty much data agnostic. We can collect any data and then validate and verify it and then connect it either with Web2 or Web3 companies and smart contracts and so on.
Now, when it comes to these different types of data, from a third-party company perspective, how is that data verified on chain?
Yeah, yeah. It's we can prove where it's from. Basically, we create something we call a tangle or block. So let's say the data gets generated on a temperature sensor and then it gets saved in an IPFS database. Along the way, we can tangle the data, and so we prove the handover. So we can say it was generated on that temperature sensor and then it was saved in that database. And then when it gets put into a smart contract, let's say after that, then we tangle the data again and have the handover between the database and the smart contract. And so
Is that, let me stop you there. Is that sequence stored in a centralized server for the database, or is it a hash that represents the data?
We store data. For example, a lot of data gets stored on IPFS, which is completely decentralized.
Okay.
And then we have the hashes we write onto some chains. That could be a Solana.
So the hash represents the data point?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Now, you guys started out with the proof of location. What was the reason you moved away from that? Or do you just see the evolution of data transparency?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we actually didn't move away from location. Location is still fundamental to a lot of the data we collect. You know, as you know, like when we speak about the temperature of something, for example, right, then it's relevant where the temperature is. Or if you say, or if you speak about smart cities, right, it's a location of cars, for example, and traffic lights, and so. Location is fundamental to a lot of the data we generate, and we still are doing all the location stuff, but we layer other data basically on top of that as well. And so, location is very, very important to XYO.
A couple months back, I ordered this card. Now, this card is a Sentinel card. Let me see if we can get it in there. There we go.
Beautiful.
Now, what does this Sentinel card do? Is it only for the location data, or is there more to having one of these cards?
Yeah, that is first great that you have a card. Yeah, those are our Sentinel X NFC cards. They allow you basically to validate and verify data and having more certainty that your phone, for example, the data generated on your phone gets verified that it's close to that card, and it's NFC and cryptographic enabled. So there's a special cryptographic chip in there with cryptographic software, and basically, and it validates the closeness. For example, you're working on proof of concept with someone on enabling this same type of chip inside clothing, so that you can have a real world game and have.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. And then you can have a game and clothing and all the things, right? And we have real world games, and then there's going to be NFC stickers probably at some point in the future, right, where you can track other physical items and so on. So it's a location and for data verification as well. Okay.
Now with this card, do you earn any extra rewards by having it? What's the breakdown on that look like?
Yeah. You earn a multiplier. So as you might know, we have the coin app, right? So in the beginning, we had IoT devices. You needed to buy these devices, Bluetooth devices, which you bought right in 2018, and then you were able, or we call them as Sentinels Bridges, which allowed you to collect data. But it was complicated for some people to set those up. And so we launched a mobile app called Coin. You can download it on coinapp.co, which makes the data collection really easy. And so this way, today, about 80% of the users who come into our app are non-crypto users, right? Because it's so easy to understand.
Right.
And if you have that card as well, you are able to earn more points, which you can exchange for XYO or BTC or ETH.
Another thing is you guys have the mobile application, you have the Sentinels, the cards, and now you mentioned your own layer 1 blockchain.
Yes.
Now, is that a fork of another blockchain? Is it a brand new creation? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a brand new creation. I think our team is a little crazy. When we started talking about it, I always thought like we're going to fork, but then our team said we have to build it from the ground up because there's just so many issues with existing legacy blockchains, and if you don't build it from the ground up, we can't solve those issues. And we are going to release a new white paper in the next few months. It's going to give you all the details about the layer one, but it's really mind-blowingly amazing and different than other blockchains. It's a lot of innovative features and concepts.
That's the thing you run into a lot when working on building on top of other layer ones is they might do this. One aspect really good, but then they leave out another aspect because that wasn't a focal point. So you run into different things like that when it comes to data, smart contracts, and implementing it all onto a blockchain. Then you need to incorporate speed, the cost per transaction. A lot of that comes in. So with the XYO network, what are you guys looking to use it for? Is it going to be for businesses using the data? Is it going to be for end users on the network that are using your applications? And what do the transaction costs look like?
Yeah, it's all of the above. So it's a very, very data-centric blockchain. So what we are focused on is provide data certainty. That's what it's about, but also make data storage and analyzing of data cheaper and the network more performant. And you don't, as you know, like if you try to save any data on Ethereum, it's basically impossible. Right? You pay $1 million before you save the picture.
Right. Yeah.
And same even on Solana, right? Which says, we are 99 times cheaper than Ethereum. It's the same thing. You still pay $100K, right? To save a picture. It doesn't make any sense. And so, or 10K. And so, we are just making a very data performant chain, and nobody has done that way. We're doing it, and we think the future of technology is all even more about data. If you look at AI, in AI is all about data, right? And where does the data come from, and have this validated and verified data, and we are basically building the future for that.
Okay.
And to the cost, we don't quite know yet how cheap it's going to be. In all of our tests, it's very, very cheap, but we haven't released any numbers yet because we're in testnet, but the live chain isn't live yet. So we can't 100% tell you, how cheap or expensive it will be. But similar to Ethereum, it's the Solana, the cost is going to vary based on how busy the chain is. So if it's like
the demand of the network.
Exactly. Yeah. If there's a lot of demand, the cost goes up a little bit. If it goes down, the cost goes down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, for the infrastructure itself on the XYO network, will participants in the network be able to run a node, be a validator? What does that look like?
Yeah. All of the above. We haven't announced the details yet. So I can't tell you everything, but yes, it will be that.
Okay, that's awesome to hear. From an end user perspective, it's always good to be able to put some skin in the game and be able to run on the network instead of just watching what's happening. Another aspect is what types of partners do you see using the layer one blockchain when it does come out?
Yeah. We are speaking with a lot of other partners in the DePIN space. They are very interested because they have very data-centric and data-heavy applications. Right? They create a lot of data. And then, but also RWAs, some of our existing partners. Then we have some consumer brands we're talking with. It's across the board. We don't know quite yet when we're going to open it up. So our idea is that we have the testnet, right? And then we turn to live at some point, and then we will run our internal data first, right? To make sure everything's performing and works the way we want it to. And then once that's going great, right, then we onboard third-party partners. So it's going to take a few more months until that's going to happen.
Do you have a launch date in mind?
Yes, but I don't want to commit to it.
Oh man. Okay. Can you say a quarter? Is it going to be released this year?
Yes.
Okay. So it is coming this year.
Yeah.
You just can't say no date yet.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, looking forward for the future roadmap of XYO, what other types of data would you guys like to incorporate? And what other types of partners are you looking to acquire?
On the data, like there's no limit what we want to incorporate. Really, it's a lot of AI training data, I think, a lot of edge node data, where data gets collected in places where data doesn't get collected as much. We have lots of nodes in places like in certain parts of Africa, for example, or in places where data is underrepresented, and because of that, the AIs are trained with biases, and we try to avoid that. So we want more data from places where you don't get enough data. Like if you look at ChatGPT, for example, right, their language training is really amazing, but if you try to translate something, for example, into Amharic, it makes lots of mistakes, right? And that is, I think, because it doesn't get enough training data from there, from Ethiopia, for example, and so. We try to solve that, and that's close to my heart. But also other data. Really, we are data agnostic. Really, you can run any data,
any type of data on chain.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you also see the opportunity for the data in Web 2 to come into Web 3, whether it's Facebook data, Amazon data, different big conglomerates bringing their data into Web 3 to where it can't be altered, it can't be accessed by bad actors? Do you see a use for that in the future?
Yes, yeah. We're already working with someone. I can't say the name yet, but we had a proof of concept, and they have 60% of their data set, there was something wrong with the data, and because they collected this certain type of data, and then with our validation verification, it was over 99.9 whatever percent correct, and so it's usually impactful, especially if you are a big company and you collect data, and that data gets let's say restaurant data or point of interest data. And that data gets messed up because you get it from a lot of different sources, right? You don't know which source to trust, and whatever, data gets messed up and or becomes outdated and so on. And with our network, you are able to fix those problems.
That was the next question. If I wanted to store data on the network, will you guys have a user interface where I could upload the data? And how would I access the data? Would it be a private key? Would it be pay per use? And would they use XYO tokens?
Yeah. There will be an interface, but I can't go too much into the mechanics yet because it's going to be released over the next few months.
Killing me, Small.
Yeah, no. You're asking all the good questions.
I know. Okay, so for the accessing of the data, they would use XYO to access the data. Would it be a per use or a monthly subscription type situation? I don't understand that aspect.
It's per use. It's on a per use basis.
Okay. Similar to ChatGPT, you use certain amount of characters and then you get charged for that?
Yeah, ChatGPT has a monthly subscription, I think, but it's similar to where you use the network, and the more you use it, the more you have to basically pay. It's like basically for every data thing.
Gotcha. Now, in addition to the layer 1 network, are you guys working on any other technologies that will build on top once the network is launched. Can you talk about any of them type of products right now?
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff we are working on top of the XYO layer one. You're smiling because I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're right. I won't tell you what it is, but it's basically to make the network ultra performant. And then also what's very important to us is that what you mentioned before is that Web2 companies can incorporate our network into their daily operation without really needing to understand Web3. And so it's going to be a lot of adapters and plugs which allow you to connect through the like JavaScript and easy, understandable for Web2 companies, easy, understandable routes to connect into our network in a way that it doesn't even need to matter to them that we are a blockchain network, right? What matters to them is a solution we provide as a data validator, for example, and so that's important to us because it allows us. We have much larger breadth of companies we can work with.
Gotcha. Another thing I was just thinking about when you were saying that is circling back to the location data. Mm-hmm. When you talk about AI, location data, and mapping, the first thing that comes to mind for me is Tesla and their automation. Could you work with car manufacturers in the future to share that data, store the data, something around automation of these vehicles, the robo-taxis, different things like that?
Yes. Yeah, we can. We did a proof of concept with a smart city company in China, for example, a few years back.
Okay.
We can. It's not only for the cars. It's everything in a connected city. You know, if you traffic lights, parking meters, right? Maybe the cops have some sensors, right? And anyone there's a lot of connected stuff in a city, right? And gunshot sensors, I think, and so you have all of those can be connected, and then you optimize them. But you grab that data, you make sure that the data is true and correct, and then you train in an AI to help you optimize your city, right? So, for example, you run the traffic flow in a city based on where the cars are and how you predict the cars going over the next day, right? Or if you have crime hotspots, you know, at certain times of the day, for example, right? Then
make sure you have cars rolling through there to make sure safety's a priority. Yep.
Exactly. And you can do that all with XYO.
To circle back on what you just mentioned there, I have a personal question for you. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the smart cities and the smart infrastructure, how do you personally feel about the evolution of this technology? Do you feel like it's overreaching, like Big Brother is watching? Or do you feel we have to find a balance between the before and after of having this type of technology?
Yeah, I think a balance is right? Of course, nobody wants to be watched all day long, right, by cameras and tracked and so on. So we use, for example, something called the zero knowledge proofs, which allows you to have a privacy-centric data collection so that it can't be tied back to you. But I wish smart cities would be the same way, right? That they only collect the data they need really to keep the cities safe and performant. You know, I think that Yeah, the advantages of smart cities are just so amazing. If you think even a few years into the future, right? And we are all in self-driving cars, and there's going to be drones flying around and so on, you know, and just right now, for example, we use our cars for 3% of the time, right? It's an incredible waste of resources, right? And they're so expensive, right? But imagine you can buy your cars like 90%, right? Because they are all part of the city network, right? They just drive around, right? And they go charge themselves, right? And then you drive them on the roads, which don't need maintenance, and you just optimize it, right? There was a traffic accident, let's say, and so you reroute them automatically because whatever, right? And so you can run these smart cities like ultra efficient, much more resource efficient, you know, and it's going to get much better in the future. And so I think there is a lot of benefits to smart cities, not only for transportation, but lots of other things. And so I think we need to be okay with a little bit of watching to make that happen. But I think there should be a limit to that.
That's the way I look at it too, is I understand what they're trying to do and what type of data they want to collect. But you also have disadvantages by having cameras on every street corner. Even driving through my city right now, it seems like every 6 blocks, you got another camera that's just on the side of the road. And using AI technology, they're taking your license plate, how many scratches you have on your car, who was driving, how fast you were going. I mean, it's so much information being collected that I feel like there has to be some type of barrier.
Yeah. Right.
What type of information do you guys need to collect? And then putting I don't know if you'd call it a stop, but some type of filter to where, okay, you start crossing the line, we got to keep this all decentralized versus having faces and pictures with this type of information. I like the advancement of technology. I've always been a technology person, but yeah, there's always opportunity. And it's the same with any technology. The more you advanced, there's going to be good actors and bad actors.
Right.
And when you have certain type of data, whether it's a license plate, a street address, if that gets in the hands of a bad actor, then you have a whole other can of worms that you weren't planning on. You just wanted to get your traffic right. And now you're leaking the addresses of everybody that was on that street that day. So you got to find a balance between the two to keep people safe. And I like the thing you mentioned about safety and the police and fire, being able to reroute them for hot spots or certain times of the day where accidents are more prone or break-ins are more likely. Different things like that would be really useful. And I've never thought of smart cities like that. So that was great. I appreciate you pointing that out. But for me, yeah, there's trade-offs to it all, and we got to find that balance for sure.
Yep, for sure.
So to close out the interview today, is there anything else you would like to mention or talk about to conclude the interview?
Yeah, at first, I really love that you joined in 2018 and you're still there. You have the Sentinel X NFC and you are with us for 7 years, which is absolutely incredible. And this is I'm so grateful to our community. If you look at our X comments or how our community is online, they know how it is. The token prices go up, token prices go down, but we are there for 7 years, and
Right.
like 99% of the projects from that time are not. And so I want to say thank you to our community, how amazing you are, and good things are going to come. And our team is there to bring it all together. And and then 2025 is going to be incredible. It's like the XYO layer 1 is mind blowing. What the team is building there, and I'm really excited to release all of these things. I didn't quite talk about today. Over the next year, and we think with some new regulation, also with RWAs and DePINs and crypto in general, I think it's going to be just a good time. However, there's going to be some volatility, I think, in the market. I think XYO is up 44% today, so we are not in a bad spot. But in general, there's a lot of up and down. So just bear with us. It's just how it is in crypto sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's another thing that amazes me is when you look back at, I've been in since 2015, 2016. So I've seen the evolution of couple market cycles, and you see who's still here and who disappears. And for you guys to push through and still be here after a couple of market cycles. And you've seen the types of projects that we're building, and some of them even had their own physical infrastructure and they disappeared. Mm-hmm. They didn't have the drive. They didn't balance their finances right. They didn't have the right timing. Some of them came too early before people even understood it was possible, and different things like that, to where a lot of the projects, there might have been 10,000 projects over the last 7-8 years that have disappeared, all because they didn't have the drive and dedication. Yeah. So I appreciate that from you guys as well.
Thank you.
All right. Well, this has been XYO Network, Data Verification DePIN. Thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you. It was fun.
All right. Have a good one.
You as well.
The Crypto News Podcast with your host, Joshuwa Roomsberg. Follow and subscribe today.